Hey, friends, we are fearless. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Frances Young, and we are here with Piper Sellon today. And we are going to get extra nerdy about human design. Before we get to this episode, I would really love for you to know what your human design energy type is, so that you can follow along with what we're talking about, whether it's an episode with a guest or it's the Fearless Shorts. You're going to go to my website, www.thefearlessprojectltd.com. You're going to input some information, and it's going to spit out something that looks a little weird. Yeah, that is called a human design body graph. It's going to tell you 3 important things that today I hope that you go forth into the rest of life, understanding what energy type means, strategy, and authority. And if not, just keep listening to the podcast. I can't wait for you to see what we talk about, what I talk about, and maybe get a laugh or two. So, without further ado, Piper and I met through an online astrology community called the Narrative Astrology Lab. We are both nerds of astrology, understanding energy, and then we also happen to be human design readers and experts. When somebody comes to us with a graph or is curious or has every question under the sun about human design, we can go there. Piper is my first human design expert on the podcast. Piper, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited. I know.
Let's just see where this whole generator projector moment goes for us. Because I bet you'll be able to better direct at a certain point. Hey, Fran, let's corral this energy a little bit in this direction on this question. Piper, let's hear, who are you and just how did we come to be in this moment recording this podcast?
Like you said, we met doing astrology and human design stuff. And I'm a 5/1 splenic projector in human design. In astrology, I'm a Cancer sun, Aquarius moon, and Leo rising. So I know that we have a lot of different similarities in our chart in terms of things like our big 3 also coinciding.
Mm-hmm.
What that means about me is that I love to study all the things. I really enjoy trying to make information accessible and practical. I really enjoy sharing information about the collective as opposed to like really focusing on communities or individuals. It means that I make decisions in the moment. So if something could be right now and not right in 10 minutes, just like a wild animal might be like, now is a good time to step into the meadow. And they're like, nope, now there's a hunter. I'm going to leave.
I need to turn around right now.
Exactly. Using astrology and human design for me was how I could get to know myself. So projectors get to know themselves by learning about other people. Generators, manifesting generators, they are really good at learning about themselves by studying their own chart and their own information, which is super awesome. For projectors, we get more and more confused the more we look at our own chart. For me, when every time I look at someone else's chart, then I'm like, oh, that's why I do that. That's why that's the case. I'm so excited for this collaboration because I know your conscious sun is gate 29, the gate of the yes or the no. And that's the only thing in my chart that is in my sacral that's lit up at all. I have an undefined sacral and my only activation there is gate 29 or the gate of the yes. I get very excited about saying yes to things. And then I really have to pay attention to my splenic authority to be like, wait a minute, yes or no.
Hang on. I don't know, to just add to that moment of yes or no and really tuning in. I have been into human design for just over 2.5 years. With my profile of 1-3, resonating on your one. We literally Google everything. I've been talking to a 1-4. They also Google everything. Anyways, 29 as my son feels like the most generator of the gate, of the true should I or should I not. Having it as my identity and how I present myself in the ways of just literally my entire life has been quite an up and down love, dislike relationship since realizing that that is why I am like this. So for this to be the only way that your sacral, not the only way that it gets lit up, but the way in which in your body without a transit or something else going on. Now I want to ask, what planet is it associated with?
That's a good question.
Lately, this has been my new obsession of, I also want to know the planet that this number is associated with, because then I dive deeper on the characteristics of how, for me and my human design, wherever on earth it may go, is very much related to somebody's health and the qualities of a planet, what house it resides in, then starts to unlock all of these other ideas for someone's physical, mental, and spiritual health. So that's always why I go to the planet next.
Which makes complete sense. I am just curious if for you, gate 29 means that you feel more of an inner push to say yes to things. And then you might have to be like, oh, wait, I don't feel like that's good. Or if it doesn't lean toward the yeses versus nos for you.
That's a beautiful question. Because of having, I'll try to generator it. That could be a new verb. Generator it by drawing in the fact that I'm trying to surrender to the excitement of what it means when my sacral starts to feel a true, just literally vibration to give me the yes, as opposed to using my mind, as opposed to what is if I am just going to literally spit out, because my moon is also Aries, my emotions or even though I'm a non-emotional and I have a white solar plexus in my graph and happen to have one of the deepest feeling gates lit up in there. God damn it. Is that as soon as what my body is trying to put to my throat to say, as opposed to my brain, I try to make that the yes, the thing that comes out of my mouth, as opposed to worrying about any should that could take away an immediate feeling of excitement when I feel something come up. As I explain this, go back to a moment a few weeks ago in August where I knew that I felt I was being asked a question. When do you want to see me again by somebody? That was the type of question that was being asked. It had a bit of an open-endedness to it, but it was also just the see you again part. And my body immediately got excited and was like, say tomorrow, say, and I didn't know how to say tomorrow. I just sort of blah, 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 flew out of my mouth of this. So I knew my body was excited, as opposed to trying to come up with I should try to say this in order to seem correct. Does that describe how I'm trying to figure out what a yes and a no is? What our brain likes to think a yes or a no should be, with that vibe of that gate.
Yeah, I love that. That's really beautiful.
I have been playing with this. The best description that actually finally made me emotional about having gift 29 as my son was reading the Gene Keys description in the Gene Keys Bible of a text, essentially, is the way I like to describe it. Richard Rudd's full copy. The only way that it helped me was by his description of having wholeheartedness written quite throughout his description. It's interesting, many times since about 2017, 2018, when I was really on my own as an entrepreneur, working with other individuals, opening a gym, and really in the thick of figuring out who I am and how I represent myself and my work. I was writing out core values quite consistently. One I wrote well before knowing what human design was that I know that I am wholehearted. And that
so beautiful.
Right?. And I was like, you can't make this shit up.
You really can't.
No. I don't know if you were able to see it, but I was able to find on yours is that your south node is gift 29 on your conscious side.
That would make sense.
Of the things that you know, the things that have come with you in previous lives, that are still things that are helping you navigate this life, but you don't always have to continue to say yes to in this life.
I was just thinking about, like wholehearted yes versus like for me, the North Node on that side is gate 30, which is the gate of the faith, which is about not trying to enter something and being like, I'm going to get this out of it. It's going to be like, I just surrender to the experience. I know like fate is in and of itself, its own topic, and people have strong feelings about what fate means and so on and so forth. For me, the fates are like very tied to like the pagan idea of the fates who've been your destiny for you. And you have some influence, but like at the end of the day, stuff is going to, if you can't control all the things.
I've had some downloads in that moment because my conscious earth is that gate. It's 30. So
that's right. That's awesome.
We knew that this was just going to go in a weird tangent. And here we are. Fate. And so lately, now I can't remember if I've sent this to you in, our narrative astrology chats yet, because I know I've mentioned it to somebody, but I've started to study the Kabbalah. And did I send this to you? Did I tell you this?
You mentioned it.
The Kabbalah it's a layer of human design. One of what we both know, I like to say, are the 4 pillars, if we're going to give some major pillars to the system of understanding astrology, our chakra systems in our body, and then the 2 texts that add to all of this beautiful wisdom, the I Ching and the Kabbalah. You can also study the Kabbalah completely separate from human design, as it is its entirely own spiritual system that allows us to better, what I would say in a nutshell, understand collectively how energy and what they call the light, what they call the creator, helps to aid humans just literally live their life. Helps to keep us going, helps to solve these destinies within us, this soul calling that we feel within us. It helps to aid us, essentially. That's the way I want to describe it today. It talks about fate all the time. Are we succumbing to our fate all the time? Or do we have control over this thing, the outside world around us? Ultimately, we don't. But we have control over the system that's navigating what's in front of us. I'll say a concept because it'll help me relearn as the 1-3. Also because I do deeply feel that how I've witnessed my own life change so much since June, so much since, these past 4 years, that I literally cannot wait to see what could happen in the next hour, as an example, is that our fate is somewhat predetermined. In this case, I will say that that our life, me, Frances, in this moment, has kind of these multiple movies that I could play out. And my characters, I'm going to say that they do change ultimately, but this movie is pre-scripted. Whether I get to go into this next level or the choose your next moment ending of said movie is fully up to me. But all of the versions of the script that I could access have already been written. It's just my turn to see if I don't like this movie, if I don't like that this is where I'm living, this is what I'm doing, this is who I'm interacting with, I continue to learn lessons that I don't want to keep learning anymore. I can take myself out of this movie theater, put myself into the next one, and then everything changes. And then I get this next leveled up version, but of still the same story because I'm still driving the same seat in the same car. But I've so-called elevated myself to go to this particular timeline or this particular avenue of how. Remember there was something that came out with Black Mirror on Netflix, or there was like another, like, hey, you could choose this next ending moment. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Literally that. So the Kabbalah explains that something is predetermined for me and what my soul is meant in air quotes, to correct or to live in this life as Frances. And there are multiple ways that I could get there. And I want to choose the most efficient, highest, most awesome version of me experiencing the best movie that I can for this particular timeline.
I really like that framing of fate in general. I feel like it combines, I feel like it's more, I feel like it resonates with my experience of life because we can't control all the things in life. We can control certain things about ourselves. And like you said, I don't want to keep doing this shit. I don't want to keep doing this thing, but there's so many other things that we can't control within that.
Yeah.
I just love like the many layers of our existence.
And getting comfortable
and I feel like
with the layers of it. That's the hard part.
Right. Yeah. And like, that's one of the things I really loved about human design when I first started learning it was, oh, like this is how these are the sort of the threads I was dealt as part of my makeup. And then what I want to do with them and being conscious or not, how I can play with it now. And if I choose to not be very conscious, and that like you said, like I'll learn certain lessons, and if I'm more conscious, then I get to choose some different.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I know in human design, it's like this, the point of the system, like similar to astrology, right? It's not necessarily to give you an easy life because that's not possible, but it's to allow you to be more mindful about how you live your life. I've told people before, I love it because now I have a greater understanding of why people are different from each other. Not just that they are different, but why they're different.
What has your life been like since understanding your energy and design deeper? What has changed? What has felt like this ever evolving? Because we both know that right now, human design, we have no idea where on earth it's going to go with shifting into a new paradigm because we're already in it. Shifting into at what moment, if it is in 2027 or if it is further down in the next few years post that we actually do receive a new energy. What does that even mean for us? But we're getting ahead of ourselves of just how has life gotten better since learning human design, yours, others, and just being a part of this journey.
At the end of the day, human design boils back down to our strategy and authority, right? Everything else is super awesome. It definitely enhances our life and enhances our understanding. But at the end of the day, like strategy and authority, that's all someone walked away with. They could still transform their life. And it used to be, and not that it's like a perfect thing now, obviously, but it used to be much harder for me to make decisions. I have an open head center. I tend to be all these ideas, all these thoughts, all the things I could be doing, not doing, all these mental rabbit holes I could be going down. And they're all so fascinating and interesting. And they're having difficulty making decisions in general, whether it's about like the research, whether it's about something to do. And ever since I've started doing human design, I've noticed this in other people too, like this using other people as external authority. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? That's just like one of our big questions because we're all so uncertain. Like, what do I do? I'm not sure what I should do. Unless you're a manifester, I think then you feel a little bit more self-confident unless you've been conditioned to be.
Which a lot of them have been. We know this. For how,
right,
when I resonate with speaking with manifestors, like hearing you say that, I'm like, every manifestor I know still feels super fucking uncertain.
Yeah, exactly. Especially women have been trained to be like, no, like doubt yourself. Like, how dare you? Even manifestor men, like that doesn't feel right to them. For me now, knowing that I have splenic authority, knowing that for me, it is a small feeling, not this gut response. It's not yeses or nos. Because when people would say like, well, just listen to yourself. Like, is it yes or no? I'd be like, I don't know. It's neither. I don't feel anything like it. Right. It's a feeling that I was somehow wrong because I couldn't feel something. And then, realizing like, oh, it's just because 70% of people feel and I don't, and that's okay. It just means I'm a little different. For me, honestly, like decision making has been the most transformative part of human design because now, like I feel more confident in my decision. I applied for a job. I was accepted the job. I had good feelings about it intuitively. Literally my third day there, I was like, nope, it's all wrong. It does not feel right at all. And I quit, and I got a really passive aggressive email from the person like, such a shame you couldn't stay here and learn. And then I would have felt really bad about that. Like a couple of years before, it's not a right fit for me. Move on.
Yep.
On the basic life level, like every day, knowing my authority and my just how I make decisions has been really transformative. Part of it is not making myself wrong anymore for not feeling the way other people feel. My husband has emotional authority. He has to think about things. He has to sleep on things. And I know things right away. Now I can appreciate the way that he does it. Now I know I can't be so impulsive when I want to make a decision. I have to get my time. Think about it. Neither of us are wrong. It's just we function really differently. The reality is like everything else is super, like I said, super awesome and cool, but it all comes from it at the end of the day. Without that component, the rest of it's just academic and intellectual.
The rest of it is just sprinkles on top. The rest of it is just, ooh, I get to tell you life theme. And that your life is for yourself if you're a right incarnation cross, cool shit. I love that you just went in on that is literally the most basic piece of our energy. It's the first thing you learn. I did learn that in my very first reading. I learned the big three of human design of energy type, strategy, and authority. And I didn't like any of it because I was told I am the most populated energy type on the planet. Generators are the most prevalent of the population. I was like, what the hell is this responding thing? Okay, I can relate to some moments where, for me, I have gut authority. So it does feel impulsive, but it is a full physical feeling in my body, as opposed to Piper explaining that she has this kind of little voice that pokes at her some way or somehow. And that it's okay. The most validating piece for me was the fact that I will sometimes look impulsive because gut can be immediate when I'm presented with the appropriate question, when I am responding to the, in air quotes, correct thing that has been put in front of my face, because my body knows, I have a bit of a different experience with a defined crown and a defined ajna with regards to ideas. I get super set in a certain way of this is the way the thing is going to come to me with my opinion or my inspiration of this is the way it's going to be. If somebody comes to me with a different thing and I'm like, but I thought it was going to be this way, then my fixed fire energy comes up with that also from my natal chart. But strategy and authority, that's what I was taught. That's the way that I beautifully have always heard and put back to me in for, let's say, the greater human design community of who's who and who we see and what the internet is these days for us to have access to information and other people in our very not regulated world. There's only very few who are continuing to say strategy and authority above all else. And those are literally the only people that I'm paying attention to. It's just naturally like the ones that still this, as opposed to getting off and going down too many Google rabbit holes. Appreciating someone else's authority and seeing someone, if I'm getting to know somebody, I've had a lot of different people come into my life since June of 2024. Did you do this where you're trying to figure out somebody's energy type on the spot and you don't know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Sometimes I'm even like, oh, I bet I know their life theme. I need to look up their chart.
I have gotten another thing of me getting nerdy with certain dates of months as well is trying to figure out and know when gates particularly change. So lately I've also been getting particular birth dates and days coming back up into my vicinity as well. Honest to God, I'm getting the same life themes in my life consistently right now. It's absolutely amazing. And I start memorizing numbers of that, this date in December this person has this life theme. This date in January it's bonkers. I love it so much.
Cool.
It's so fucking cool. When I am trying to regulate my energy and be really tapped into what is me and what is someone else, I have 4 open centers, and they are some of the biggest, this is how I view them, the biggest pushers and pullers of energy for how someone can feel something particular when someone else is in their field. I have an open spleen, open root, open solar plexus, and open ego.
Yeah.
I only have 1 motor center, and I'm really tapped into the collective's fight or flight response, which is ultimately always in stress response. So when I'm really trying to remain me, when I've got nobody else around me, it takes me a long time to empty out. And it takes me a long time to truly be like, yep, this was what your body was telling you. And this was the emotional authority of this person. And you're still feeling it. It's okay. You can get rid of it. Or this was the ego out of this person. This was their motivation you were feeling on that particular day. When I'm in front of somebody and just listening to them, especially generators lately, for the generators that have been around, I feel like I've been around a lot of, let's use the word aligned, but excited generators for different aspects of their life or just how we're vibing when we're talking. I can literally feel my sacral get excited with them about what they are excited about. And just makes me feel, I was saying with a girlfriend who I was recording with last week, a generator. I was like, we're high on generator juice. She's making jokes about it. The generator juice is real. I fully fucking believe it. When you just see somebody in their moment and they're just talking about the thing that they're obsessed with, this mastery that generators have throughout their life. But authority for your husband, emotional authority, I can only imagine how that feels in watching what that looks like, not understanding what it feels like in your body, but being able to appreciate and know that that's his body. I know I'm still over here helping him have his experience and vice versa, because we're all learning from each other and each other's authorities and that when I didn't know human design and trying to navigate, let's just go on a nugget, emotions in a conversation. What emotion is mine? How am I presenting myself? I'm a Cancer rising. So we very much resonate on being able to open ourselves if we feel emotionally safe, pretty much on the spot. Cancer wants to be the mom and show that they can care by also being open about their emotions when they feel safe. Yeah. But that's only half the nugget of if someone is an emotional authority and they just need to talk about how they're feeling in that moment and not solve an issue, it removes all amount of projection. It removes all amount of, I need to fix this person. And if more people knew that, like, the world would be so different.
North American cultures, and I think a lot of European cultures, and I just don't know enough about a lot of the other cultures in the world to feel like I can speak on how they function. But we're very bad at emotional regulation, and different cultures express it differently. I know, and my husband's English people are very repressed with their emotions, and they feel them, but they don't express them, which is problematic. And I'm sure that you experience this as well, whether you're an unhealthy defined emotional center or you have an undefined emotional center, you start picking up and riding the emotion. And then you may not even know where they're coming from or why you feel so upset.
You too, because you're also splenic, so you get it.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, I had somebody on Threads. I set a boundary with them. They raged at me and told me that I was projecting. She's like, interesting. Like, I told you not to do something. Your response was not to take any kind of responsibility for it, even if it was like, oh, I didn't mean to. It was just to be like, it's your problem. So deal with it. So I blocked them, which is also hard for me to do because I'm worried about other people's feelings excessively. And I felt all this pent up feelings about it. And I was like, I don't know why I'm so upset. I finally realized I'm still feeling their energetic feelings about it. I'm still holding that in my body. And I actually just listened to it was like a few days after, I think it was either that within the week of you talking about like emptying out with sleep and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, I know Frances just talked about this. Okay, I just need to try to just let it empty. And then in about 2.5 minutes, the feeling was gone. Like I had no more, like I was emotionally neutral again. I was like, oh, wow, that would have taken me ages before I would have that's about it. I probably would have let it sit in my system for a week, just kind of festering. And it wasn't even mine. Because I was like, I don't even know why I'm so mad. It's not really me. I'm annoyed with them, but like I didn't really have strong. It's weird, but I think we're all doing that all the time to each other. And when you're unaware, you can't let it go because you don't know why you feel like that and you don't have no way of processing it. And like you said, sometimes emotionally defined people, they're just trying to process. And then we think we have to hold it for them. We amplify it. Then we actually make it into a bigger issue unintentionally that hurts us too. If we're all better emotionally regulated, if we're all trained from childhood how to manage this, the world would be so much. And I know like with Raw Uru, his big thing was like, teach the kids, the grown-ups, a lot of us, unfortunately, we've already become so conditioned. It's so hard to fix. Not that it's impossible, but it's really hard.
It's a daily
But his focus was,
practice.
can't we fix it with the kid? Can we raise kids? Just know who you are and how you work and how other people work differently.
Yeah.
I've seen pretty emotionally regulated teenagers who know that they've been trained. Like, oh, this is not about me.
No.
It's
And
okay.
I think the majority of the experience right now that I'm noticing what I'm personally going through in my life right now is it's making me pause so hard before I even send certain text messages. That aren't even confrontational on any front. I am trying so meticulously, and then maybe I'll be trying too hard. There's an aspect of myself that I'm like, okay, now I'm overthinking it. That's conditioning for sure, just showing up in the ways that I know my body and my brain, and just as a whole, that I'm working on my own, in air quotes, deconditioning process. But because I notice how much more I feel now more than ever, it's literally, that's my only job on the planet, is to regulate me. And then everything else around me naturally flows in the way that it is meant to flow. And it does not have to be faster. It will never be slower. But there's still this kind of ultimate timing. I think the thing that makes me most excited about having kids, because I personally do want kids, is that a few years ago, I was like, fuck, like the world of, where we are right now. Should I be really thinking about bringing children into this life? And I'm sure that most generations of humans have feared this, had these types of thoughts, or whatever X crisis and or just difficulties that humanity has dealt with across time. But that I am so excited, the fact that I know how bodies operate. I'm like, I've got the leg up, yo. Of course I want to fucking have kids so that my kids teach, just like where everything will eventually go. I'm like, yeah, I want to teach my kid. Of whatever energy I am given, I definitely think I'm having more. I will have more than one child. But I totally think I'm going to get a projector as to one of them just to throw me off, just to be like, here you go. And not to be a sick joke at all, but to test me, because my mom's a projector. I am surrounded by a certain number of projectors, even though lately we've had lots of new generators come into my life. Not as many manifestors or manifesting generators. I got some really good ones. So I feel like universe is like, use those ones for now. We'll throw you another one later. But I've been given lots of generators and generator juice lately. But that one of my children is going to be a projector, just to be like, hey, Fran, let's move slow on purpose. Let's go to, I have 2 more questions. What is one thing that you love the most about human design? And this is a very broad question on purpose. What do you love the most?
I really love that I feel like it gives, and this is what informs like my personal interests in terms of how I use human design. But I really like how it informs, it helps you to identify things like interests and purpose and helps direct you towards what those might be. I feel like, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but when I speak to friends who are projectors, I know they share similar feelings, which is, oh, well, people tell me I'm supposed to have an interest and I don't like have one. Like I have a gazillion interests. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Have you heard of Sam Zagar? She's a projector teacher on Instagram.
No, tell me about her.
She's a projector. I'm trying to remember her type, but it doesn't really matter for our purposes. But she really helped me feel differently about it because she was explaining, she was like, projectors aren't specialists. Generators are actually specialists because they get really excited about their thing or thing. And then they dive in, they learn all about their thing and they get it's really amazing. And she said for projectors they deal with some sort of bigger system. And she was like, human design is not a system in that sense. It's a tool for your system. And she was explaining, she was like, you can use any lens you want. You can use human design, astrology, Kabbalah, I Ching, whatever, and many other things. But the point is that your system is what you're interested in. And it's the common theme to all the threads of your interests. Like I've realized I've always been drawn to stories of like self-sacrificial rulers, right? To me, a very Leo theme. Benevolent leaders whose goal it is to serve their people. And a lot of my interests focus around things like I want people to be able to pursue what brings them joy because I think that's what's best for society. And I think society should be set up in a way to allow for that instead of saying, do you have to work your 9 to 5 and just suck it up because that's life? Or worse, you have to work 3 full-time jobs. Otherwise, you don't deserve to have health care or survive. And therefore, that would be my thing in life. Using human design, like looking at someone's profile, looking at their life path, incarnation cross, looking at their north nodes and south nodes. Like for me, I look at it and it helps me to have a sense of what this person's purpose is. And it may be related to business, it may not be. Right? Some people, they do the work they do because what they really care about at the end of the day is connecting with other people and forming community. My younger sister, she's a 1-3 generator, and her big goal is to build community.
Amazing.
That's what she wants. Like she wants to have a big house someday, not because she just likes to say, I get having a big house, but because she wants to be able to have enough space to host gathering. And that's like a major life goal for her. When I look at her chart, I can see all these different threads that definitely connect to that. I feel like a lot of socially, like we feel like we're not sure about our purpose. We're not sure about what we're here to do. And without purpose, that's one of our driving factors to stay alive, right? Is having purpose of some kind. Because unlike animals, we're just like, in the moment, I have purpose because dinner's coming.
Eat, repeat, sleep, go do this thing. That's it. It is all that matters. Blah, 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 blah. And then humans developed emotional capacity in a prefrontal cortex. And we're like, so why are we here?
Exactly. We're like poetry, and animals are like poetry. That
Literally.
That's what I love about human design, is I feel like it helps us connect to our purpose, see ourselves, and not make ourselves wrong because we're not fitting into whatever purpose someone else thinks we should have, whether that's religious, whether that's social, right? We all know certain cultures put a lot of weight on their children. You should do certain careers. Embarrassing if you do others, stuff like that. So for me, that's what I love about it. I find it to be a very empowering system that embraces both community and individuation at the same time and seeks collective freedom. For me, that's like the trifecta of the goals. And astrology does the same kinds of things for me, but my brain just organizes human design information more efficiently. So
Same. There's something about the complexity of human design that just makes sense in my brain, as opposed to astrology does, but it just takes me longer to find the threads, to use your language. Whereas for us, human design is somehow in our genius of life of where we gravitate towards first. For yourself as a projector and projectors as a whole, it's okay if they don't feel that they have an interest. I'm repeating it on purpose for some reason, so I'm going to go with this tangent before I say what my favorite thing is. Projectors, even though they can still have lots of things in their life, but they're not really sure what they're like, this is my thing. Whereas for me, with being a generator, dance, human design, I can name the things that make me fucking excited. Always.
Mm-hmm.
But that if a projector, when they come across human design, it's this thing that allows them to have a lens or to shine the light on these different aspects of how they then help others, how they then view themselves to operate of it's okay as to why I move a little slower in comparison to everyone else, or why I look at things in the way that I look at things, as opposed to the generator fucking bouncing off the walls, just literally like a kid on jelly beans. Minions are, I think, my new description of generators. I'm now dubbing in this moment because I'm obsessed with minions. Lately, I've realized this by just having people put minions in front of my face. Literally, all that minions do is stupid, random shit that looks very impulsive with a lot of energy. Generator. Okay.
This is my new favorite metaphor for generators, by the way.
You're welcome. Take it, run with it. So, the thing I love most about human design is it lets me be me. It lets someone else be someone else. And as much as I can feel this, what I think types of emotions and feelings I'm figuring out right now and how I perceive others and just my world experience, is it's very much keeping me on my side of the street as I move into new territory, as I keep being given new experiences right now with new people or doing things I just haven't done in a long time. I went golfing for the first time this summer in over a decade, well over a decade. And it wasn't half bad. Whoa, where the fuck did that come from? But with new people, new energy, new place. And I was still very much able to be me and then leave it. And then, okay, I'm on to the next thing. As opposed to, again, for how my energy wants to hold on to things, hold on to how, okay, next I'm going to do something, or how should I re-show up in this? I'm like, no, just show up with how much generator juice you have from the amount of sleep you got last night, Fran. Use your authority on that day. That's it. As opposed to holding on to stories, something that I feel so deep inside that's coming up that I don't know how to deal with for being a fucking non-emotional. Apparently we have to deal with some rage, but that's why I love it so much. Because I've never felt so much at this point for my current human experience that I am the most authentic version of me today. I know I am showing up as all the things that I could be today. It's funny, my life theme, literally, is to just spark passion in whatever day experience of life I'm on by talking about the things that I love. That's it. It's actually not complicated. But humans want to complicate shit. Thank you. Yeah, I won't go too far on that tangent of continuing to talk about just like showing up as that. But we've worked on a lot of conditioning over the course of my learning through life as a 1-3 profile of just keep being me. Because I've had many, whether it's been a romantic relationship, whether it's been parental environment, whether it's been, I keep doing different dance styles, but actually it's okay that I just keep doing them. Societal conditioning. You need to show up in this way, and this is how you succeed. And this is the way that you're going to get the skinniest with being a health professional. Fuck all the crap that somebody else could put on the internet. If it doesn't resonate with you, fuck it. And this is what human design says. Just do you, bro.
It's simple, but it's also really hard because the whole world's trying to tell you not to be yourself.
Yeah.
At the same time. And I think, in human design, it's like being yourself is actually really revolutionary.
Yeah. Like really revolutionary. It's ridiculous in that it has 4 of the oldest systems on the fucking face of the earth that we know as of humans that we've been writing down since we could look at the stars, astrology, since we were interpreting someone else's energy in front of us, chakras, since we have given what is the meaning of life a sentence, what we love, who we are, what it feels like, all those things about purpose. It is essentially I Ching and Kabbalah language. But it's so like it literally has come at the perfect time. It's kind of ironic.
Even if you're quote unquote part of the biggest group, being a generator, your chart is still unique. It only will reoccur maybe once every 24,000 years. And there's no guarantee a child will be born at that moment.
100%. At that moment that I was born on my particular birth date on that particular moment. And maybe the arrows would still be different,
Right, exactly.
I've had clients, and I currently still have one, that literally has the same life theme as me.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know. And I've had multiple people come into my life. I've noticed more recently, since June to now, but also in the past 2.5 years of noticing somebody have the same 4 top numbers in their human design graph. 29 for me, 29, 30, 8, 14. And I still currently have a client who I train as a personal trainer. We're both generators. We are so wildly different. It's not even funny. Yes, our birth years are also like they were a little bit different, but not by much, maybe 3 or 4 years max. Our lives are so different. It's not even funny. She's a 3-5. She's gut authority. She actually has the full discovery channel of 46-29 connected because 46 is the love of the body, the physical self. And I don't have that one. It is so interesting when you meet somebody and you do happen to know their birthday and know the numbers and know the things because of us being nerdy like that, to know just how wildly different we all are. And to see that person in their authenticity is just gorgeous. There's no other, it just makes me happy thinking about it. If I see that person fully being them and I'm fully being me, but we're so just that little bit the same. Last question. On the spot, we're both readers and we're both going to have a moment where we're looking at something on each other's chart. Do you have my chart?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pull it up. All right.
What we are going to do, folks, is what is a question that Piper and I have for each other about each other's design? And then I'm going to ask Piper, hey, tell me something about this, about my design, and vice versa. Piper asking me, hey, Fran, tell me about this, about my design. The only particularity that I will say, Piper, that I want you to ask me about your design is something about being a projector that you're curious about on terms of health. And then I will, go down a moment of my rabbit hole of my brain. And then if there's any contingency you want to give me on my question to you, you totally can.
One of the ways that I have always regulated my emotion is through eating.
Yeah.
Because that helps calm me. Yeah. And when I was first introduced to human design, a reader told me that, you have gate 30 defined, so you have to be careful about eating sweets. I was really annoyed because I actually don't have that big of a sweet tooth. Of course, I enjoy sweets sometimes, like anyone. But if I picked a advice, it would be the savory, salty side of life as opposed to the sugar side of life. And then as a projector, it's just always been hard for me to try to find balance with things like other ways of emptying out that actually are effective and require low effort because I'm sure when you're already stressed and exhausted, the beautiful thing about any form of zoning out, whether that's watching something, eating, etc., is that it's low mental effort. It's great because you don't have to think anymore.
Exactly.
And you get that relief, right? Which is, we need that relief because otherwise we're too stressed.
Yeah.
So what would Yeah. Does that make sense? What I'm asking, kind of like, how would you respond to that? Or what's your insight or feeling on like how someone who is trying to cope with both being low energy, but also needing to get relief? Would you have more healthy coping mechanisms, thoughts? Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Or do I need to change my question?
No. With regards to being a projector, non-emotional, having 30. Now I'm going to double check because in this moment, you can probably see my face, but I am currently looking at your chart. You have 30, 55, and 36 lit up in your solar plexus. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to triple check. I feel like I can deeply resonate with this in a different essence, even though I am a generator, but because I have 30, because I am a non-emotional and the Cancer rising, there's many facets to this of how looking at it health-wise that I feel like I'll be able to give you an ability to pause and then choose a moment that's either water or actually trying to dissociate if you are truly hungry. I think that's a lot of the time a thing for regardless of energy type, let alone projector, because of having an open sacral. And you guys don't have, in air quotes, the turn off, right? Of
Yep.
I am full. Whereas generators do. But we still overeat in our own ways as well. It's interesting that this reader brought up 30 to me because I'm also thinking about the fact that you're a Leo rising, which means that Capricorn is on your 6th. And that's day-to-day health as a whole. Capricorn loves structure. And Capricorn likes to know that things are all in a row, to say as a theme as well. I always, if I am not sure if my body needs food, lately, I've been reusing this analogy to help myself, which is called HALT. H is, I actually ask myself, am I hungry? When was the last time I ate? Like I do like a back check in myself. And each letter in HALT has something to go with it. So am I hungry? None of the rest of the ones are coming to me except for T. Or am I tired? There's a reason for this, and that the other ones don't matter. That's why they're not coming to me in this moment. For projectors, am I actually hungry or am I just tired? Do I just need to sit down for a second? Remove stimulus from myself in some way. A screen is a stimulus. Noise is a stimulus. What I just, did coming back currently you're in your car. I feel like that's kind of the moment for projectors throughout their day. If they're able to just dissociate for when they had their last meal, and are they actually tired from being overstimulated, even in a momentary sense, they'll be able to realize and self-regulate before reaching for whatever thing, whether it's sweet, salty, or whatever. I might go down the rabbit holes of myself later of looking at, gift 30 and what particular amino acids are associated with it. That'll be my own tangent, and then I'll get back to you on that. But I think that's my answer for if you're hungry or asking yourself if you're just tired in that moment. Because one thing I've noticed as well, especially for projectors, depending on the projector you speak to and which centers they have lit up, projectors really do not like the statement of, oh, you just don't have enough of your own energy and you're just like a low energy projector. Projectors have energy, folks. Don't worry. If you're a projector listening to this, you guys are normal like everyone else. It's just the stimuluses that affect you differently because your sacral is not always consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that resonate?
Root.
Yeah, and you do have a defined root. So your adrenals are like, yep, I can do the thing when I need to do the thing. Nope. How does that resonate of just those two things of having a moment to be able to decide if what you need when you need it?
That does make sense. I definitely think that it probably is, for me, a lot of times it's probably fatigue.
Mm.
Yeah. And if it was more like I'm sure this is true of everyone, but I know a lot of projectors say they'll like they'll get somewhere and then they'll like go in back in their car and they'll just sit there quietly for like several minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want music playing. I don't want anyone to need me. I don't even need to like necessarily occupy my brain with my phone. Like I might just sit there and like zone out and look at like the bird moving around
And
or
literally
the
that
tree.
clears your system in 5 minutes more than any other person and type of energy can like empty out.
So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes
You're
a
welcome.
lot of sense.
Is there anything else?
I'm just like mentally thinking about like when you were talking about like, emptying out, expressing stuff, getting it out of your system, which I could go on a whole long tangent about like, different, like they've shown that if you hurt yourself and you swear in response, you actually feel better immediately.
Yeah.
Swearing is actually a way of releasing some of that feeling that you had about it. And it actually causes a reduction in pain, like noticeable reduction in pain readings as far as we can measure pain. But, like a person's perception of pain drops, which I just think is funny. It's like what you were saying before, like if only we just return to the simples, maybe our lives would be a lot less problematic. We overcomplicate it all the time. Like you said, like, am I hungry? Like point A, like maybe I'm actually hungry. I'm definitely also ADHD adjacent. I haven't been diagnosed, but I kind of think I have some of that where I'm like, like it has been a while. I should probably do that.
I've noticed more so recently that a lot of the time we do just need a fluid in our body as opposed to a meal. And I'm realizing a bit of an experiment my body went through yesterday. I was active for the majority of the afternoon. I did have 3 meals yesterday, but the ways in which they were spaced out was very reminiscent to how my digestion also works because my digestion is also passive. Yours is passive as well. And it goes up and down. We don't eat the same amount. Our body doesn't need literally the same amount of calories every day, but it will still genuinely need a certain amount of fluid. That's one thing that is consistent because the regulation of our fluid and our lymph, in our body, I have been experiencing this summer, is so important. If that is in a state of fairly regulation, regardless if we have passive or active, just the right or left arrow, just that then the rest sorts itself out.
Yeah, I know that the lymphatic and like the fluid systems are very related to the spleen. And that basic of just like health or not health, right? That's so interesting. That's such a profound observation. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome. I know we could go on a tangent on that, but
easily.
We're going to have so many conversations, Piper. My question, I'm trying to pull it out of somewhere. What is something I've had difficulty with my chart? How do you like to talk about open ego?
When I'm talking about, and I have an open ego as well, essentially, if you have an open ego, you're not here to overcommit. You're not here to make a bunch of promises to people. I'm going to try to do this, or my goal is to do that, as opposed to saying I will or I won't. People with defined egos, for them, it's actually, it boosts their reputation. It also boosts like their life motor energy from drive when they make promises and follow through. So when they say, I'm going to be there at 3:00 and they're there at 3:00, that does boost their reputation. And it also gives them a push of energy back into their systems. And it's really healthy for them. And specifically to their heart organ, it's really healthy. And for the majority of people, we don't have it defined. It's either undefined or open. And we're not really supposed to be trying to make these kinds of promises because not that I was intending to bring it in a full circle, but to go back to what we were saying at the beginning, fate intervenes a lot in life. We have the best intention that it doesn't work. And for people with undefined egos, when we make promises and we don't follow through, it actively hurts our reputation and it causes heart strain and can cause heart damage. The goal with an open heart is to know, like, you're not here to make those kinds of hard and fast promises. You're here to do your best, and that's all you have to do. You're not expected to do more than. I see it for people with undefined egos. I see it as it's one way in which we can enjoy some freedom because we are, and not that I'm not trying to say like it's negative to have a defined ego. It's just the way they would look at it is really different. Yeah. For us, it's like we're allowed to be imperfect. We're allowed to not always follow through because sometimes it's not appropriate. And especially like thinking about authority, right? You commit to something and then your authority changes. And then what happens? I would argue that we have a really high prevalence of heart disease. And I know people would say it's related to things like our lifestyle and our food. And I'm sure that's part of it. And it doesn't help, right? I think a lot of it has to do with the stress and strain of trying to always fit into committing and following rules that we are not always able to commit to. If you say, yes, I'm going to be at this job and I'm going to be a reliable employee, and then your kid's sick and you need to go, you get framed as a bad employee. Even a guy, even though they tend to get seen as a good dad because they left early, there's still this paint of, well, they fell down though on this.
Yeah.
And they're not a good team player because they had to take care of a child. And where was their partner? Why didn't they take care of their child?
Where's the mother?
Right. Like this is the mother's fault. And if you're a mother who leaves work early, then that's really bad. Right? Societally speaking, which is insane. In the US, we want to force birth, but also we're not going to support you staying with your kids and taking care of them. If you leave your kids, you're a bad mom. Like super awesome all the way around.
There's no winning anymore.
People with defined egos, like they're here to compete and win. They love it. It makes them feel happy. It gives them life force energy. Just like for someone, when I'm with someone with a sacral who's really excited, I actually can ride their energy for hours afterwards. It'll feel like this energetic, like bouncing feeling for hours because I still have it in my system because I was, allowed to partake in some of their energy.
Yeah.
And for people with defined hearts, that's how they feel. Like they close a deal. For them, it's very life-giving. Feels really good. It feels really strong. It makes them feel themselves, right? And for people, if we're just competing because we're told we have to compete, we're just winning because it's expected or we promised or something, it doesn't give us that same satisfaction, to use a generator term. It just doesn't, for a projector, it doesn't give them that success feeling. It doesn't give a reflector that surprise feeling. It doesn't give a manifester. It doesn't give us all these feelings that we're supposed to be getting out of being happy with our lives. It's just like another check mark.
I've never heard that explanation. When I was told I had an open ego, I started to go down the rabbit hole of figuring out what that meant. The thing that has always stuck with me is that I don't have to prove anything. That was a sentence that initially stuck with me. It's interesting that for my life journey, the stories that I have to understand that type of sentence to me and what it means to me. I even have the words on my back tattooed, I am enough. And I got that well before knowing that I have an ego. So I truly have words to remind myself daily that I'm good. I don't have to overcommit. Then going full circle on gate 29, wholeheartedness. If I commit to something and I'm not all in, I have such a hard time. And then I have open ego on top of it. Literally, I felt that emotional weight of that fate. I don't have to feel like I got to compete. Also, the most competitive person on the planet. I have Aries in my 10th house with my moon. It's difficult, not hard. It's a challenge. But thank you for saying that about open ego. Thank you for joining me today and going into the depths of where we went about our initial conversations. What do you want to say about today and everything we just uncovered?
I feel like it's the simplest things in life that are like definitely the hardest. We overcomplicate, we overthink. We got to get the mind out of the driver's seat. It's got all these agendas, and it's like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to make the world. The reality is you don't have that much power, A. B, you don't have all the knowledge you think you have. You are such a role model by type. And I know you're here to be on your own trip and do your stuff. And you're a role model by doing your own stuff and being yourself. I can see like your energy, like in videos that you post. I don't know what you were doing. You were like, someone was like moving like kitchen objects around and you were dancing in response to the movement.
You went
And it was
that video with Janelle. She's a manifester, by the way.
Oh, that's so funny. No, I saw that and I was like, oh, there's that generator life spark. I'm like, oh, I'm going to respond. Thank you for being your amazing model self. I know that, again, that's not what you're trying to do, but I appreciate that you are embracing being yourself and saying yes to yourself, like more importantly than anything else that you say yes to in life. And yeah, thank you for being you and thank you for having me. I really appreciated our time and I really appreciate feeling your sacred joy and zest for life. It's so beautiful.
Thank you so much, Piper. That was not what I was expecting what you were going to say at all. I can't wait to have you on for a second episode, but that's where we'll leave it today. I'd like to leave you with a reframe as to how to look at yourself with a little more fearlessness. Once upon a time, I did a meditation. This was a few years ago. Coming out of this meditation, something was very clear from my body. My body told me to fear itself less. You do not have to be afraid of the intuition that your body is speaking to you. You can fear yourself less. You can love yourself more. And I promise you that life is going to show you the rest.